welcome back to this week's episode of AMA Friday with Amy Miller, Recruiting in Yoga Pants. Alrighty, so this week I want to talk about setting expectations. All right, so as job seekers, and I've been there, I have been a job seeker, I have been in this exact situation and have made many of these mistakes. So I want to share with you from both my personal ways I screwed up my job search, as well as from a recruiting perspective, what are some of the challenges that can come up, or misunderstandings or misinterpretations perhaps, that happen when we are setting the wrong expectations for our job search. So a lot of folks will complain about being contacted, or recruiters reaching out, or hiring managers wanting to talk to you about a role that in your mind represents a lateral move. Okay, this is a common complaint. So I'm a senior recruiter at this company. Why would I want to go be a senior recruiter over there? If it's not a management position, I don't want it, right? Or I'm already like an L5 engineer at Facebook. Why would I take anything less than an L6 at any other big tech company? Okay, these are very, very common discussion points and complaints and rants that I hear. And I want to unpack that a little bit with you. All right? Because I feel like we have to kind of take a little bit of a step back, take our emotions out of it, take our own thoughts of where we should be and how great we are, take that out of the equation for a minute and think about what is driving that from the recruiter side, or from the company side, okay? So think about the last time you were promoted, or the last time you wanted to be promoted, or the last career conversation you had with your manager. Hey puppy, we have a dog. With your manager about how you were gonna get to the next step. I know for me, something that I've heard at all three of the big tech companies that I've been at, as well as other places, what I have heard is that in order to be promoted, in order to be ready for the next level or the next step in your career, you needed to show that you were operating at that level. Does it sound familiar to anyone else? I'm not the only one that heard this, right? I hope not. Okay, so knowing that that is the expectation, and that I'm not gonna just be a really kick-ass L5 engineer who's just gonna be gifted an opportunity to be an L6 engineer, senior engineer, I have to show through my work, through my performance evaluations, through my internal feedback mechanisms, whatever, I have to show that I am capable of operating at that level. That's how we get promoted. That's how we get moved to the next step. We are showing that proof through those mechanisms available to us that we are indeed able to operate at this next level. Y'all, why is that so hard to swallow when we're thinking about a new job? Now I want you to think about this, because I've talked about leveling before. One of the early videos we did, very much amateur hour up in here, but one of the earlier videos that we did about titles and leveling, I told y'all that levels are mapped to a certain scope of work. It is mapped to what are the expectations of somebody in this role at this level. What are the things we're expecting them to perform? What are the things we're expecting them to be really good at? What are the things we're expecting them to deliver? That is how we determine typically the level and scope of work someone would come in at. What we do not do, for the most part, is promote people into a new job. Okay, I'm talking about changing companies. Obviously, you can be promoted in your current company. Again, you probably have proven on some level that you're capable of it, or they wouldn't be offering it to you, right? Usually we want to know that you're going to be good. But you're also a known trusted entity as an employee, so it's easy to take a chance, right? Say, hey, we see all these signs, we think this person's gonna be great in this role, we're gonna promote him, give him a chance. A lot of times you'll find people functioning as like acting manager. That is another way. It's like a stretch assignment almost, or like at Google, they call it a bungee, or there's different, sometimes like even really formal processes in place that allows you to function as the next step in your career and kind of prove yourself for 6 to 9 months. And then you get promoted. Now you're the L6 senior guy, whatever. Some of y'all as job seekers are trying to do that as total strangers. So you're happily plugging away, writing your code, doing your thing as an L5 engineer at Facebook, and you're thinking, well, that means I can go be an L6 engineer at Google. I know I can be a senior person at Google, or whatever they call sixes. I think it's senior, but anyway. Or let's say you're an L6 at Facebook, and you think you want to be an L7 principal at Amazon. Doesn't typically work that way, okay? Another example I saw a lot was management, okay? So when I was at Google, I only recruited managers, engineering managers, that's it. We had other recruiting teams and other groups that did above and below that. I only did engineering management. And one of the non-negotiable requirements was previous management experience. I cannot tell you how many tech leads I spoke to over the months that I was there who felt like they were ready for the next step in their career and wanted to be a manager, wanted to be an engineering manager. And that's great, but companies generally don't promote you into a new role. All right, this is a tough one to swallow. I know this is not feeling good for you guys, but I want you to think about what you have realistically experienced yourselves as job seekers, what you've seen happen in companies that you've worked at, and understand that a lot of the moves you might be making are going to be lateral. Lateral by title, lateral by scope of work. Okay, because we are hiring you based on what we know you can do, what you've accomplished, and what you've proven you have ability in, or significant skills and strengths in. Okay, that's how hiring works. I understand that we all know that one guy or that one girl or that one exception to that rule. I get it. But again, I'm going to remind you to think about scope of work, okay? If you have been a tech lead at a very large company and you've been unofficially managing maybe 5 engineers and you've done everything but performance reviews, you've been involved in interviewing, you've been involved in, feedback, and you've been involved in like handing out tech work, those kinds of things, and managing and mentoring from a tech lead perspective, you could very easily move into a full-fledged manager or maybe even director role at a small company or at a startup, okay? Because we're talking about scope of work. If you can prove that, hey, in this large company, I had my hands on all these different things and I was managing all of these different processes and projects, and then I had this dotted line stuff happening with direct reports, and you can pivot that to the problem a small company is trying to solve and say, hey, I could be that manager, that can absolutely happen because the scope of work maps. Conversely, I have hired a ton, or maybe not a ton, but a decent number of directors, VPs, and people with very lofty titles who came into Google or have come into other large tech companies as managers or senior managers. Now, if you just put the titles next to each other, it looks like a step back. Well, who's going to give up a VP role to go be a manager? Someone who recognizes that the scope of work matches up And that this new career path, this new position as a manager, quote unquote, step down, is actually putting you onto a different ladder. Okay, so sometimes you have to almost kind of take that perceived step back, or you have to take that lateral move. It's mostly a lateral move in a lot of cases. Sometimes you have to take that to get onto a path that has a lot more runway. Okay, so stop focusing so much on the title. Stop focusing on whether or not this represents a true promotion for me. Don't think about the immediate payoff. Think about the long-term implication. If I take this lateral move, am I going to be working on stuff I'm excited about? Am I going to work with people I like better? Am I going to have more opportunity for growth at the new company? Am I going to make more money? Who cares what they call you if your paycheck is bigger? Honestly, I mean, look, I have earned the senior title, okay? I've been doing this a long time and have studied career guidelines carefully to know, what do I gotta do to be here? Other than that, I really don't care. Call me the grand poobah of recruiting. I don't care. Just show me my equity, okay? So for those of you that are struggling with this or thinking, oh man, why can't I get, a promotion? Why can't I get the next leg up? Why can't I, get a job bigger than the one I'm in? Think about it differently. Think about how to get on the right path to whatever that long-term goal is. If it is a fat title, if it is a corner office, if it is a large team, that's okay. But think about the path that you need to be on and the credibility and the abilities and the insights and the strengths that you need to build upon to prove that you can actually do that big job. It's rarely going to happen company to company. It can absolutely happen internally, and it can absolutely happen with one quick lateral move to the right place. Okay, I hope that helps. This is something I think a lot of career changers are dealing with, and a lot of people who have maybe been hit with COVID and unemployed. Like, I get it. This is traumatic for a lot of us, but I want you to let go of the idea that a job is only worth considering if it represents a promotion, because that is just not accurate. Learn that the hard way so you don't have to. All right, y'all, thanks for tuning in. Let me know if you have questions. There's a lot more we could unpack on this topic, but hopefully this gives you some things to think about. Drop a question, comment down below, because I read them all, and we will see you next week.